In this video, we'll be making a two-tier cake with a sugar pastry and hair and makeup accessories. Roll out some black fondant as shown. Then roll out some red fondant into a fat sausage shape and cut a 1.5 to 2 inch piece of red fondant. This will be the base of a nail varnish bottle, so it needs to be fatter at the bottom and slope inwards to the top. Cut a black piece of fondant as shown. This is the screw top for our nail varnish bottle. You may need to tweak and mould the fondant until you're happy with the shape. Cut a small piece of black fondant and create a small flat square. Use a straight edge, such as the blade of your fondant knife, to press against the edges of the square to create straight edges. Repeat the process to create a second square of black fondant. Use a ball fondant tool to create a circle indentation in one of the back squares as shown. Roll out some red fondant and cut a circle. Here we are using the end of a metal piping tube to cut the circle out. Place the red circle of fondant onto the black indented square of fondant and then place the other black piece standing against the first as shown. Roll out another stick of black fondant for the base of the lipstick tube. We then need a little more fondant for the lipstick itself, so pick a colour you'd like, roll it into a sausage of fondant and cut into a small piece on a diagonal as shown, ensuring the other end of it is flat. Stick the lipstick on top of the black lipstick base. Roll out a fairly large sausage shape of black fondant. We'll be making a small pair of hair straighteners. Cut down the middle of the fondant about 2/3 from the end as shown, so that you have a split. Separate the two ends as shown. Cut a block of white fondant and cut two rectangles and stick to the insides of the split back fondant roll as shown with water. Roll out a black ball of fondant and stick to the end of the straighteners as shown with water. This will be for the electric cable. Roll out some black fondant for a cable and stick to the end of the straighteners. Roll out some black fondant and cut out some little black stars using a star cutter. Depending on the size of your cake, you'll need approximately 30 to 40 stars. Next, we'll stack our tiers of cake. We'll be using wooden dowels inserted in the bottom tier of cake to support the top tier. First, we need to cut the dowels to size. So we measure the height of the first tier of cake and mark the dowel at that height with an edible ink pen and cut the dowel to size. We can then insert the dowel into the cake at least 1 inch from the edge of the cake to ensure the top tier is supported and that the dowel isn't visible. We create 4 more dowels the same length. We clean the ends off with a tea towel to avoid splinters. Insert the remaining dowels roughly evenly around the cake, as you can see. You can then lift the second tier of cake and place it on top of the first tier, with the dowel supporting the cake board on the underneath side of the second tier of cake. We then cut some black ribbon to go around the outside of the tiers of cake and stick to the cake with edible glue and the two ends of the ribbon to each other using a non-toxic glue. We can then take our stars that we made earlier and stick them around the cake in a pattern and duplicate the same thing on the second tier of cake. Next, we have some pre-made pink sugar paste. We are using a sugar paste because it holds its shape and hardens faster than fondant. The downside is that it's a little harder to roll out flat. We're going to make a pink high heel shoe. For this step, we'll be leaving the base of the shoe to harden into shape overnight, as you'll see. We've created some paper high heel shoe templates that we've taken from the internet. The sole is a little smaller than the width of the top tier of cake, so that the shoe fits nicely on top of the cake. Cut the sole of the shoe out of the sugar paste as shown. Here we are cutting the top part of the front of the shoe from the same piece of sugar paste, and we have wrapped it in cling film and placed it in a sealed airtight container ready for the next day. In reality, you may be best doing this step on the same day to avoid the sugar paste drying and cracking when you bend it into shape. To get the sole of our high heel cake the right shape, we first wrap a fake cake base with our cling film and then place the rear end of the shoe on the fake cake base, with the toe on your surface so that the sole is sloped. We use a rolling pin behind the sole to avoid the sugar paste dipping too much and hold the top of the sugar paste sole in place with a weight. Here we have a box of fondant. Now we can make the heel of the shoe. We roll out some sugar paste in a sausage shape and use the thumb and forefinger to taper the end to create our sloped heel shape. Gently tap the end of the heel to create a flat end and cut the heel so it's the same height as our fake cake base, just over 3 inches in this case. We mould to our desired shape and trim and measure to ensure it's still the right size at the end. We can then leave the heel and sole to harden overnight. The following day the sole and heel will be hard. We can then stick the top part of the shoe to the sole. We can use some cling film scrunch to support the top of the shoe so it dries and keeps the right shape. Here we're going to have an open-toed shoe, so we cut the end of our template off. We can then stick the top of the shoe to the sole with some edible glue. We can then stick the heel to the sole with some more edible glue. We add some simple jewels around the top of the shoe and that's the shoe complete. We then simply glue the makeup accessories to the cake and use a cocktail stick in the heel of the shoe to fix the shoe to the cake with some glue on the underneath of the sole so that the front of the shoe sticks to the cake. Here we are sticking the small hair straighteners to the front of the cake, but you can place wherever you think it looks best. And this is our shoe and makeup cake. If you found the video useful, please do like, share or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps a great deal. Thanks very much.